Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go ahead and hit the button below for subscribe. Also turn on the post notifications so that way when I post new content, you'll be made aware of the new content and you'll be able to benefit from it. All right, so if you see behind me, you can tell that we're about to do some geometry today. So get ready. Hope you got some paper. Hope you got a pencil or a pen and an open mind. All right. So what do we have here? And what are we trying to figure out? Right? Let's first look at what we're trying to figure out. We're trying to find x, or the value of x, in these expressions. We're trying to find the measure of the angle. This is an angle symbol. The measure of the angle ABD. So we need to, of course, make sure that we know how to identify where angle ABD is. That's another issue too. A lot of our students are unable to just look at a diagram and tell where the angle is that's being referred to. So this is angle ABD. I'm going to show you how to find that and how to identify that. And also we want to find the measure of angle DBC. Okay. Now let's go up to this diagram. Now let's first kind of take an inventory of what we see up here. So I see a straight line, right? Line A, or I can call it line B or line C or line BC or line AB. Lines have a lot of different ways that they can be described. I see a straight line. I see an angle right here. But as a matter of fact, let me go back to the straight line. Because one thing we need to understand is that a straight line is an angle also. Just because it's straight, it's still an angle. A straight line is an angle, okay? And the straight lines have an angle measurement of 180 degrees, right? So if it's straight, it's 180. It's 180 degrees. But then I have this angle right here, right? That's created by these two rays, right? The space in between these two rays is an angle. And then the space in between these two rays is another angle, right? So if I want to figure out what x is, right? And then once I figure out what x is, then I can figure out the measurement of each of those angles. I need to think to myself, what rule do I know from geometry? What theory, what postulate, what corollary, what law can I use to create an equation from algebra that will enable me to be able to solve for x and then in turn figure out what the measure of each of these angles is. So when you have some familiarity, right, with angles and you've done a lot of problems and you've been through like different chapters in your geometry textbook, you'll look at this and you'll say, okay, well, if I know that this angle is right next to this angle, so the measure of this angle plus the measure of that angle should give me the measure of both angles put together. That's called the angle addition postulate. Angle addition postulate. So yeah, you might as well write that down. I'm gonna write it down up here too, because that's what we're gonna use. We're gonna use something called the angle addition postulate. And a postulate can just be thought of as a rule, a law, right? A generally accepted idea, right? That works every time, basically, right? Postulate, okay? So the angle addition postulate, what does it say? The angle addition postulate says that if I have at least two angles and they are adjacent to each other, right? I can combine the two angles, add the two angles together, and that sum will be the measure of a larger angle, right? That those two angles are composed of, or comprised of, rather. All right? Basically what it means is this. Let me try to simplify it even more. This angle plus this angle is equal to this whole angle. Now, I already told you that this whole angle is really a straight line. And straight lines have a measurement of 180, right? So from there, I could create an equation. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an equation using the angles. Now, this angle right here is called ABD because the B is where the vertex is. The letter B, or the vertex, will always be the middle letter in the name of an angle if you name it with three letters, or using 3 points, I should say. That's point A, that's point B, that's point D. Out of those 3 points, point B is the vertex. So therefore, that's going to be angle ABD, right? Then we look over here at this angle. I see point D, point B, and point C. Because remember, An angle is made up of two rays that connect at a point, which is the vertex. The vertex is the point where they connect. That's what an angle is made up of. So we got point D, point B, and point C. Point B is the vertex. So this angle plus this angle, so that's plus angle DBC, is equal to something. Now what it's equal to is angle ABC. Remember I told you, a straight line is an angle as well. No matter how weird that may sound. When I first learned that many years ago, I was like, how a straight line gonna be an angle? It is. It's a type of angle, right? And it has its own, it has a certain measurement too. So angle ABC, just because it's not curved or it's not slanted, it's still an angle. Now, this is my original setup. Angle ABD, which is this, plus angle DBC, which is this, is equal to angle ABC, which is the straight line. Because this plus this creates this whole thing, this whole angle. All right? That's what happens. So if you want to think about it like this, you say, okay, so I got, this is one angle. This is another angle. If I put those two angles together, it makes that whole angle. So that's this plus this equals this. All right? So, and I want to emphasize that because a lot of the work that we do in geometry is about visualization. If you could visualize it, then the algebra part and setting up the equation becomes easy. You know what I'm saying? All right, so now what we got to do is we got to create our algebra equation. We have our setup. This is an equation, but this includes the names of the angles. Now we want to create an equation using the information in the diagram. So angle ABD is also represented as the expression 5x plus 10, right? So we're going to use that. We're going to replace ABD with 5x plus 10. Put it in parentheses. I'm going to bring the plus sign down. Then we say, okay, well, what's the measure of angle DBC? Angle DBC is represented by 2x minus 5. So I got that next, 2x minus 5. Then I got an equal sign. And now, angle ABC, it doesn't say up here what angle ABC is equal to, right? But we know that angle ABC creates a straight line, and straight lines have an angle measurement of 180 degrees. So that means I'm going to have 180 right here, right? I'm going to have 180. So now I have this angle plus this angle is equal to 180. At this point, the geometry is over for real, actually, until we go back at the end and figure out what these two angles are. But right now, we're back in Algebra 1. We're back in Algebra 1, just solving an equation with multiple steps in order to figure out what the value of x is. So now what I'm going to do is, these parentheses are here, but they're really irrelevant. We only really need them because we're doing addition. If we were doing subtraction, then these parentheses right here would be very relevant, right? Now, we want to combine like terms, 5x plus 2x. Altogether, we got 7x's. So that's going to give me 7x. And then we got positive 10 and negative 5. Positive 10 plus negative 5. Adding a negative is the same thing as doing subtraction. So that's really just 10 minus 5. 10 minus 5 equals 5. So that's going to be positive 5 right there. Write your equal sign. Bring down to 180. Now we get closer and closer to our goal. Now I'm trying to isolate x by itself, right? So I got to get rid of this 7. I got to get rid of this 5. It's easier to me and more efficient if we get rid of what's further away from the x first. So I'm going to get rid of this 5. Now, the question is, how do I get rid of the 5? You do the opposite operation from what the 5 is involved in. If the 5 is being added, we got to do the opposite, which is to subtract it. So we subtract 5 right here. Now, in equations, we keep everything balanced, right? Think about Mayat, ancient Kemet, and all that. All about balance, right? So if we subtract 5 on the left side of this equal sign, we also need to subtract 5 on the right side of this equal sign. Over here, boom, boom. That's going to be 0. The 7x is going to come down. The equal sign comes down. 180 minus 5. We got to do our mental math. That's going to give me 175. Now we're close. We're getting close. I got to get rid of this 7. How do we get rid of the 7? Ask yourself, what is the 7 doing right now? The 7 is involved in multiplication. 7 times x, that's multiplication. So in order to eliminate the 7, we have to do the opposite operation from what it's currently involved in. So we're going to divide by 7. So we're going to do 7x divided by 7, which will leave us with 1x, which is the same thing as x. And I already mentioned to you that you must be balanced, right? Just like in life, we want to be balanced, right? So if we divide by 7 on the left side, we want to also divide by 7 on the right side. Boom, we're going to do that. 175 divided by 7. Something should click in your mind. How many quarters make up $1.75? 7 of them, right? Therefore, 175 divided by 7 is 25. So X is 25. Now, let me run back and check my work. Make sure my work is correct, because you always want to check your work, because that way you don't have to wait for validation from a teacher or anybody else. You know that you're right, right? That's empowering, right? To be able to do some work and then go back and check it and know you're right, okay? So let's go back here to this original equation. Now, if this is correct, that would mean that the value I get when I substitute 25 where the X's are and I do all the calculations should equal 180, all right? 5 times 25 is 125. 125 plus 10 is 135, all right? Now over here, 2 times 25 is 50. 50 minus 5 is 45. Now the question is 135 plus 45 equal to 180? Yes, it is. 130 plus 40 is 170. 5 plus 5 is 10. 170 plus 10 is 180. So that's proof that this answer is good. This X value is good. So my X value is 25, right? Not 25 degrees, but just 25. Now we're going to figure out the measurements of the angles. But one of y'all watching this probably already realized that we already figured out the measure of the angles for real by doing this check right here and right here. Because if I want to find out the measure of angle ABD, I go back to angle ABD and I say, well, what expression represents angle ABD? 5x plus 10. Now I know what x is. So now to figure out the measure of ABD, all I would have to do is just plug in or substitute 25 where the x is. So that means I would just do what I already did up here. 5 times 5 is 125 plus 10 is 135. So that means that the measure of angle ABD is going to be 135 degrees. Don't forget your little degree sign right there. Now, the same thing with angle DBC. That's right here. This measurement right here is also represented by 2x minus 5. Now, 2x minus 5 is just, again, the same 25 for x. 2 times 25 is 50. 50 minus 5 is 45. We already knew that. And that's our answer for that. So, this is how you use the angle addition postulate. And this is really how we do geometry. You know, with geometry, you want to take a look at the diagram, try to get a firm understanding of what's going on in the diagram. Think about what you know, right? Think about what you're trying to find out, what you're trying to figure out, what your end game is. Like, what's your end game? Like, what are you even doing here? Like, why are you doing this problem? Like, you know what I'm saying? That's what you want to be thinking about. And then you want to think about what tools do you have that will enable you to be able to, you know, achieve your goal, right? To figure out what x is, to figure out what the measure of the angles are. What theories do you know? What postulates do you know? What laws can you use, right? And then from that, you then want to take that, you want to create an equation. The whole goal is to create the equation. You want to create the equation that you need. And once you create the equation that you need, then you back in Algebra I now, just solving the equation. Once you solve the equation, then you take it and then you apply it and plug it in to get your final answers, like we did here. So that's really pretty much all it is to it. You know what I'm saying? So I hope you learned something today. If you did, please hit the like button. Hit the like button. And if you have not subscribed to the channel already, please go ahead and subscribe. Turn on the post notifications. Also, let people know about it. Let people know what we're doing in all this math here on the YouTube channel. Share the videos. Share them. Tell everybody. Send them to people. You know, put them on social media. Send them to your friends, whoever. Also, follow us on Instagram at All This Math. And you'll also get linked to some of the other work that we're doing in the community and whatnot, and some of the work that will be on the YouTube channel as well. All right. So, as always, do remember, there's all this math all around you. Peace.